Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Nick Gray. As you probably already know by now, Samsung has unveiled its Galaxy S22 lineup for this year with the S22, the S22 Plus, and also the S22 Ultra, which in my book is probably the most exciting smartphone Samsung's unveiled, I would say within the last 2 to 3 years. Now, that's not simply because it's featuring a brand new processor, larger display, faster refresh rates, or any of that, but simply for the fact that they're actually resurrecting the Galaxy Note series with this phone. That's right, all of the rumors that you heard were true. This phone actually includes a slot for the S Pen inside the body of the phone, rather than just featuring S Pen's support like we saw on the previous generation. But the question is, should you actually buy one? And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today with this pros and cons list for the brand new S22 Ultra. And I'll just warn you right now, I'm probably going to confuse it and call it the Note Ultra a couple of times, so just be warned. So with that, let's get into it with the first pro on the list. And that definitely has to be the S Pen integration and the inclusion of it inside the body of the phone. I mean, we all loved the S Pen integration last year. Simply having support on the S21 Ultra was something that a lot of people loved, but having the pen actually built into the side of the phone makes a huge difference. And anyone who was a fan of a previous Galaxy Note device will definitely love this phone. On top of that, Samsung's also improved the performance of the S Pen this time around, just like it typically does every year with every Note series that it launched, but this time they're including artificial intelligence to kind of predict where the pen's going to be writing on the screen, so that there is zero lag from the input from where your hand is on the screen and what's showing up on the display as well. You'll definitely love the improvement there. But that brings me to the first con on my list, and that has to be the design. I'm not a huge fan of the look and feel of this device, simply with the camera lenses jutting out from the back of the phone. Yes, if you look at this phone and compare it to previous Galaxy Note series devices, they do have some of the same look and feel elements there, but it's definitely the most bland looking Galaxy S smartphone that we've seen from Samsung in quite a few years. I think if they would have dressed up the camera module just a little bit to give it some of that flair that we see on the Galaxy S22 and the S22 Plus, Samsung would have delivered a much better looking device in my opinion. The next pro on my list has to be the 108 megapixel sensor on the back of the phone. Now, while we've seen 108 megapixel sensors on Samsung devices for a couple of years now, this is actually a brand new sensor that's 23% larger. That means all of the pixels on the back of the sensor are larger as well, which translates into better images, especially in low light conditions. So if you're looking for a smartphone that takes incredible photos, this sensor on the back of the Galaxy S22 Ultra will definitely deliver that. They've also included a new depth map for portrait mode, which Samsung says is significantly better at recognizing the depth of complex objects like the outline of a person's hair or even a fence, being able to see through the fence while keeping the fence in focus. That depth map is also used for a new pet portrait mode, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to love. Before I get to the next item on my list, I'd like to take a minute to talk about NordVPN, the sponsor for this video. I've been using NordVPN for quite a few years now. The service is incredibly simple to use, offering a secure connection while also ensuring I can access my content that I need while I travel internationally. I'm going to be on the road quite a bit over the coming months, but that can be a bit of a hassle as a lot of streaming services are often geo-restricted, and logging into secure accounts is often very difficult when the services realize that you're logging in for the first time from overseas. With NordVPN's servers in over 60 countries, I can make sure that it looks like my connection to the web is from my home country, even while traveling in Europe and Asia. NordVPN is the fastest VPN out there, allowing me to connect to up to 6 devices simultaneously so that my laptop and all of my smartphones are always connected and secure. I also make sure that I use NordVPN anytime that I'm connecting to a public Wi-Fi network, since you never really know if that access point is ever truly secure. And if you are someone who needs a little bit of extra security on top of just a regular VPN, they actually offer a double VPN so that your traffic is routed through 2 different servers, doubling your encryption. NordVPN is always offering incredible deals, but to make sure you're taking advantage of the best ones possible, head on over to nordvpn.com/nickgray or use discount code nickgray at checkout to get your 2-year plan plus a bonus gift and a huge discount as well. Of course, it's all risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. I'd like to thank NordVPN for sponsoring this video and their support for our channel. And with that, let's get back to the Galaxy S22 Ultra. The next Pro on my list is definitely really exciting for me and probably a lot of you guys as well, and that's for the fact that we finally have 45-watt fast charging that can deliver a 50% charge to this phone in just 20 minutes. Now, for those keeping track, that's up from 25-watt charging on the previous generation Galaxy S devices that we've seen for a couple of years now. Now, of course, it's still not as fast as the charging that we get on a lot of Chinese brands, but going from 25 watts to 45 watts is a huge improvement. But that does bring us to the next con, simply for the fact that this phone doesn't come with a charging brick in the box. Now, this typically wouldn't be an issue since a lot of us have extra chargers just laying around, but if this is your first device that you're upgrading to in a long time that you don't have a fast charger that can handle the 45 watts, you're gonna have to spend a little bit extra money in order to get Samsung's official charger that delivers 45 watts. And I can guarantee you, it's not gonna be cheap. So if you want a better option for that, make sure you check out the links in the description. I'll have a couple different options for you that are a lot more budget friendly than Samsung's. The next item for my pros list has to be the display, and it's not the largest display we've ever seen from Samsung, but it does go up to 1750 nits for peak brightness, and it also has a brand new panel that has a dynamic refresh rate that goes from 1 Hertz all the way to 120 Hertz. Now, having a display that can go all the way up to 1750 nits of peak brightness will probably kill your battery pretty quickly if you keep it there all the time. That being said, if you're somebody who uses your phone outside or in direct sunlight all the time, or even just bright lighting conditions, having that extra brightness is crucial in order to see your display when you need it the most. The good news is, though, that the dynamic refresh rate going from 1 Hertz all the way to 120 Hertz is incredible in allowing you to use less battery life as well. Even though you can max things out at the highest refresh rates while you're gaming or watching video playback, being able to go all the way down to 1 Hertz or 1 frame per second, essentially, when you're simply scrolling content on the screen or reading a web page is crucial in order to reduce the amount of power that the smartphone consumes. The next Pro for the Galaxy S22 Ultra is definitely the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which should deliver roughly a 25% boost in performance over last year's Snapdragon 888. This should ensure an incredibly smooth user experience on the Galaxy S22 Ultra with incredible performance in day-to-day tasks, but also gaming as well. Now, while I did mention the chipset as being on the pros list, it's also on my cons list as well. And that's because some early reports and benchmark numbers from other devices that are already on the market that run the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, while they show that benchmark performance is really good within the first couple minutes, they also show the chipset has a tendency to run a little bit hot, causing significant thermal throttling and reducing overall performance on the chipset by roughly 20 to 25% within just 5 minutes of pushing it really hard. Now, we're all familiar with the thermal throttling issues that we saw on last year's Snapdragon 888 and how bad that actually turned out to be for a lot of devices. But those same numbers appear to be happening with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 this time around. Of course, I do need to point out that we still haven't stress tested the Galaxy S22 Ultra, so it's hard to say if the results that we saw on other devices running the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 will carry over to Samsung's new flagship device. That being said, it's definitely something to keep an eye on with the first round of reviews that are going to be rolling out within the next couple weeks. But that brings us to the next con on my list, and that's the fact that it only has 8 gigabytes of RAM. And of course, yes, I'm just saying 8 gigabytes of RAM, but the previous generation Galaxy S21 Ultra had 12 gigabytes of RAM, which made it a multitasking beast. And if you're paying this much money for a phone like this, you definitely want to be able to make sure you're maxing out the amount of RAM you have in the phone. It is an option, though you're gonna have to pay more. And that leads us into the next con on my list, which is the phone's price at $1,200. Now, I know there are quite a few people who breathed a sigh of relief when Samsung announced the price of this device, simply because it's the same price as the Galaxy S21 from last year. Not the S21, the S21 Ultra. But also because there were rumors floating around that Samsung was going to increase the prices of its flagship tier devices this year. So not having to pay $1,300 or even more is definitely a good thing for some people. But I honestly think $1,200 is still way too much to pay for this smartphone. Yes, I know there's the S Pen integration and the cameras have been upgraded and a whole lot more, but there's less RAM this time around. Storage is becoming cheaper and cheaper by the day. So I think Samsung could have actually dropped the price of this phone and still had a really healthy profit margin on this device. And that's gonna do it. I know this video had a lot of pros and cons in it, some that you probably don't agree with fully, so feel free to jump into the comments and let me know that, but also let me know what you think of the new smartphone and whether or not you're gonna be buying one for yourself. I do have a full review of the Galaxy S22 Ultra planned, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon as well if you wanna see it as soon as it's online. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.